The aim of this recording is to look at the major things in educational media and resources. It's a high-level summary of some of the major things that are involved in the course educational media and resources. The purpose of this course is to develop in the student some basic knowledge, skills, and competencies that are required to use a range of media in the teaching learning process. The course will expose the learner to a range of media in teaching learning process and how he can use these media resources in the school, in the church, and in seminars for effective teaching. And so what we set out to do in this course is to demonstrate understanding of basic media tools, assess the role of media literacy and technology in the teaching learning process, analyze the foundations of instructional media and technology and their application to teaching and learning, demonstrate media literacy skills in teaching, describe various educational technologies and their application, and how we can use various teaching aids in classroom, as well as develop proficiency in technology use in instruction, as well as analyze trends in educational technology. We also set out to look at introduction to educational media and resources and focus on the key terms, the importance of media technology in education, the relationship between the communication process and technology integration, and the role of technology in media and also in learning. One of the things that we need to say, and which should not escape our understanding, is that technology influences educational theory and practice. What is the impact of technology in education? Technology continues to influence education even as it influences other sectors. Teachers and students are faced with many choices today with regard to how they can teach and learn. And one of the dynamics is that teaching has been changed. Teachers are no longer custodians of knowledge. They are no longer the sage on the stage. The pervasive nature of technology enables the learners to be exposed to the subject matter long before the teacher takes his position in the lectern. So depending on the level of study and the context of learning, students may not be expecting the teacher to tell them what to learn, but to show them how what they will learn will impact on their life, career, and profession. The second thing that is important in this discussion is the fact that textbooks are no longer the only source of expert knowledge on the subject matter. There is now multiple media communicating the subject matter. For example, you have got social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, which have become great sources of information on different subjects. And so one of the things we want to say is that technology has influenced education by increasing access, while at the same time becoming a support system, while at the same time improving our flexibility to store information, to share information, to differentiate instruction. And so very, very important, we cannot forget the positive impact of technology in education, and more continue to come. Some of the key terms that are very important in this subject include educational media, a range of communication means that are used to facilitate meaningful teaching and learning. Communication, the process through which participants in a context engage in sending and receiving of messages over different mediums with the intention of exchanging information. And then we have instructional technology, the integration of teacher and student use of resources and techniques in order to improve learning. And there is the instructional design. How do we prepare educational experiences so that we can be able to make the learning process something that students will come to appreciate? There is also the issue of learning, the development of knowledge, skills, and attitudes as a result of interaction with information and communication. Then we also have media, which refers to a range of communication channels that may be employed in different contexts for different uses. Media literacy is very, very important because it helps us to make decisions for learning. We are able to make learning effective and meaningful by asking ourselves, how can we employ technology uh, to meet various demands or various outcomes of a specific task or skill that you want to teach. The second thing is because of the pervasiveness of technology. Technology continues to influence the way we do things. It continues to affect every sector of the society. And so it cannot be ignored in the process. One of the other things that is very important is the communication process. There are many elements of the communication process, but we are going to focus on sender, message, receiver, feedback, and noise. When a sender is communicating a message, he must think about how that message is going to be understood by the receiver, and be able to think about how he or she is going to avoid the barriers of communication. He has to determine whether that communication is going to be formal or informal, whether that communication is going to be one way or two way, or whether that communication is going horizontally, or it is going downwards, or it's going vertically. In a normal interaction in a learning process, it is also important to think about feedback. Are we getting feedback on the teaching learning process so that we can be able to improve when we go to class next time? One of the other aspects that is very important in a course like this one is to understand the history of instructional media and technology. I will quickly say that from the 1940s to the 2000s, we have seen a continuous progression in the use of media and technology. So it is not a new thing as such. It is only that in our day, things have changed every time. And complexities of technology improve with time, improve with exposure of a particular country as compared to another. So that when you're talking about technological complexity, the context determines the complexity of technology. In some countries, what may be considered as complex technology might be basic technology in another country. Summarize this to say that over the years, you have seen the continuous improvement of technology. With regard to the idea of theories of instructional design, we have got systems theory, communication theory, learning theories, and instruction theories. Instructional theories or system theory beg your pardon, is or talks about three major things. One of them is for a system to work, you must have the input, a transformation process, and an output at the end, and then feedback, and the process continues. So it's important to understand what is the system involved to make learning effective. The communication process, as already alluded to, is a process that involves the sender, the message, the channel of communication, and the feedback that is received after the receiver has interpreted the message. And so a good educator must be able to determine how do we ensure that we have a feedback system from our students so that they can be able to tell us how they experienced the teaching learning process, and so give us opportunity to revise our methods and our strategies. With regard to the theories of learning, we talk about the three major classifications: behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Technology support for behaviorism would be using educational software to measure the student's assessment. With regard to cognitivism, we're talking about using technology to support the ability of students to retain information that is taught in a lesson. Technology support for constructivism might mean using software that will help students work together and combine their knowledge in order to learn, because it's about how we construct knowledge through collaborating with others. With the issue of theories of instruction, again, we can be able to get insight from Gagner's 9 events of instruction, which talked about the fact that we must gain attention of the reader or the learner, inform the learner of the objectives, tap on their prior learning and their present content so that you can provide guidance on how they can practice. When they practice, you have to provide feedback to them that will help them assess their performance and then enhance retention or transfer what they have learned to the job. And that can continue again and again depending on the purpose why learning is being undertaken. Another thing that we talked here is the issue of Brooms Taxonomy and the cognitive domain of teaching and learning, and how the teacher can be able to make sure that he or she adopts resources, media that will enable the students to move from lower order thinking skills of remembering, understanding, and applying to higher order thinking skills of analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So depending on the level of the students, you can determine what you are going to use for lower order thinking skills, like for remembering, understanding, and applying, and higher order thinking skills of analyzing, evaluating, and creating. You will find that there is a lot of tools in the market that can be used for this very purpose. And I would possibly ask you to go into the Google search and do some Google search on tools, technological tools that can be used for remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, and you're going to find that you're gonna be spoiled for choice. Now, how do you apply instructional media theories and resources in this. One, you have to link old and new methods of pedagogy, because every type of learning, every context of learning, every level of learning will depend one theory, will require one theory and not the other. The other thing is that you have to place principles above procedures and people above principles. And then you have to use technology, use resources, or use the media that you have based on need assessment. What is possible? What is required? What is going to be relevant for this particular context? Then there is also the issue of design. Objectives should guide the design of your resources, your media. And then there is also the issue of considering media literacy. How good are my runners when it comes to this particular media that I am using? I'm going to come back to that later. With regard to the models of instructional design, there are two models that are very important. The first model is the ADDIE model of instructional design. The ADDIE model of instructional design says that you have to analyze your situation to understand the gaps that you need to fill. You have to design the best possible experience based on your context. You have to develop your learning experience by building your ed product according to the needs of the context. You have to distribute your running ed product to your audience, which we call implementation. And then the last one, you have to evaluate if your running ed product is effective. So make necessary updates and cycle back to the analysis phase. So in terms of the use of technology and the use of media and use of resources, you might need to learn through some form of analysis before you can design and before you can develop the lesson, before you can implement the lesson, so that your evaluation will show that you achieved the right objectives as you intended at the beginning. But the most important one is the Ashua Model. The Ashua Model talks about the fact that before you can design any teaching and learning experience, including integration of media and resources, you have to analyze the learners. Who are they? Which level are they? What would be required of them? What order of thinking skills are we scaling? So that way you'll be able to determine which kind of technology and media you are going to adopt. And then the second is state objectives, because objectives determine the design. Select the media and the materials. You have to select the media and the materials. I'll be talking about how you select media and materials. There are principles that can help you in that direction. And then utilize media and materials in the right way depending on the platform that you have. And then require learner participation. The learners must participate in the process so that you can be able to get feedback that you require to enable you revise your approach next time. And then obviously there is an issue of evaluating and revising all the time so that you are not continuing to implement something that is not working. How do you apply these things? How do you apply as a digital teacher? One, a digital teacher needs to support instruction appropriately. The ability to design learning materials and resources that will create learning experiences that are meaningful. the ability to engage the students to collaborate in the learning process, and the ability to serve as a model of good use of the materials, ethical use of the materials. For the digital learner, he or she has to familiarize with the technology, with the tools, with the media, with the resources that are being used, so that when he or she gets on the platform or he is using that material that has been given to them, they have an understanding of how it works. Then they have to engage. By engage, I mean they need to connect with various actors in the process so that they can be able to understand the reason why a certain resource was integrated and how that resource helps to meet the course objectives. And then they also have to reflect awareness of how the learning process or the learning materials or the resources given to them impact on their work in the marketplace. For the digital environment, the keyword is multiple. We have to find many ways of representing information, many ways of action, many ways of getting engagement, and many ways of ensuring that we get the best out of the learning experience. As we wrap up, we talk about the principles for effective use of educational media and resources. Here we are talking about how do you identify them, how do you select them, and how do you use them. And there are several guidelines. One of them is the outcomes. What do you want to achieve? Depending on what you want to achieve, you will use one media and one resource as compared to another. Number two is the learners. Are they in basic education? Are they in intermediate education? Are they in undergraduate? Or are they in higher learning? Depending on the level, you will be able to employ media resources that are relevant to that level. Context. Where are we? Where are we applying this type of media and resources? Is it something that the context that we are in would find applicable? Accessibility. Can the various actors, can the people who are using these resources find them easily? Affordability. Can they be able to buy or subscribe or acquire that technology without strain? Equity. Can it be used by different people, different actors, whether they be trainers, whether they be students, are they able to use it? Novelty or ease of use. How easy is it to navigate? And then there is also the issue of backup mechanism. If it fails, what do we do? If it does not work well, is there an option? When we come to the basic media forms, there are many basic media forms that can be used to deliver teaching and learning. There are 6 basic categories of media. Text is one of them. People is another. Manipulative objects is another. Visuals is another. Video is another. Audio is another. Depending on what type of teaching that you are engaging in, you will decide whether the audio is the one that might be preferable as opposed to the text. Each of them has their own positive and negative impacts. But then, as I have already indicated, it is the context, it is the learners, it is the outcome, it is the applicability of it, it is its novelty, it is It is the student's ability and the trainer's ability to use them in a particular context that will determine whether they are going to be chosen or not. So when we talk about the trends for the future, how should tomorrow's teacher look like? What are some of the things that are affecting the future? And one of the things that I would say is that as we go towards the future, there are many things that are going to affect the use of technology in the future. One of them is the emergence of technologies that have not been there before, such as wearable devices or wearable technology. These days we have technologies that can be worn, spectacles that have functionality for Bluetooth or functionality for pairing with other things, other devices. So tomorrow's teacher must think about how do we employ wearable devices in teaching and learning. Augmented reality and robotics, artificial intelligence, things that are now being used in place of human beings. How do we apply that? Transdisciplinary learning. Are we able to study across disciplines, different disciplines coming together to help us understand a certain concept? The issue of connected learning, that the world has become a global village, and that a student in a country A can connect with another in country B and another in country C, and they can be able to exchange experiences. And then the Ashua Model is key, as I have already indicated. And then computer basics or use of computer coding, computer software, computer technology. All these are coming together to influence teaching and learning in the future. As I come to the conclusion, we must think about the challenges for the future. What are some of the challenges that we are going to face in the future? One of the challenges is the challenge of access. Do we have the ability to get the technology that we are seeking to have? Can everybody afford? Is it available in the rural areas as well as in the urban areas? Equity. Is it something that you can ask everybody to use? If, for example, you're going to use that media as part of assessment, is it something that everybody can say with ease that they are all conversant with, or you have a form of digital divide? Infrastructure. Especially in Africa, you'll find that in many places there is no infrastructure to host the intention of integration of media and technology and other resources, especially now with the emergence of online studies. We have to ask ourselves, do we have enough infrastructure, software, hardware, and all other type of requirements that would host successful technology integration? I must also talk about capacity building. Have you prepared the trainers? Have you prepared the teachers? Have you prepared the administrators? Have you prepared the people who are going to be involved on the type of resources and the media that are going to be employed? Because if they are not prepared, what you're going to find that they will not be able to use them well, and we might not meet the objectives for the study. And then finally is the policy, the way that we are going to use. What are the guidelines? There are so many things that media brings to the educational experience. Talk about something like ethics. Talk about things like copyright issues. Talk about things like intellectual property. All these things require a policy. They require a guide. They require written documentation so that whoever uses this technology, whether they are teachers or whether they are students, they will use it in an ethical way. They will use it according to the standards that are required of the market, or even legal requirements that have been set by the government and the rest of the people. And so this is a quick overview of the course, educational media and resources. But looking at that high level summary, then you're able to see the major components that you might want to deepen yourself as you think about integrating media and resources for the future.